Hi, this is Mike Pelagi, and I'm here with Jerry Dawkins, Chief Technology Officer at CISO Global. Jerry, what can you tell me about what it means to be threat informed?
Yeah, so I think when I think of threat informed, I go to something that we use to gauge vulnerabilities. So there's something called the Common Vulnerability Scoring System. It's called the CVSS, and I think as most security professionals, we understand the CVSS score. It's basically how you score vulnerabilities. So it's how you rank different vulnerabilities and how severe a particular vulnerability is, or how severe a particular threat is. And when you look at that CVSS score, it's composed of three parts. The first part is the base score, or the intrinsic score of the threat. And so that intrinsic score is like, a particular vulnerability, like what level of access does it need? How complex is this? What are the authentication mechanisms that it needs for that particular vulnerability? And that's an intrinsic score, and that's usually it's called the base score, and that's usually the one that most people use as the basis for prioritizing vulnerabilities or determining how much of a threat a particular vulnerability is. But believe it or not, there's two other factors that impact a threat score. And those two other factors are oftentimes not really taken into account when people are using CVSS score. Those two other factors are the environment of that vulnerability. So that's something that your vulnerability scanners or the industry does not score, because the environment depends on you. You have the threat. It's your environment. It's like, what target? What's the collateral? What's the impact to your organization? So that's very personal to you. So there's the environmental score. And then the third component is also really important, and that's a temporal score. And the temporal score means that it changes over time. And that one's extremely impactful because, a vulnerability that existed 10 years ago has a different temporal score to today. And when you look at a temporal score, you're looking at, like, what's the exploitability of a particular vulnerability? Like, is it actively in the wild, or is it just a theoretical thing? Is there remediation for this particular vulnerability? So if you can imagine, there might be some patch that comes out at a later time. So now there's a remediation, or there's some activity that you can do, some configuration change that you can make to prevent this vulnerability from impacting your network. And what's the confidence of a particular? So these exploitability, the remediation, the confidence scores change over time. And that's what I mean by threat informed decision. Because in order to really be threat informed, you have to, yes, I have to understand what the threat is, like the intrinsic threat to my organization. But more so, I need to understand the environmental and the temporal score. The environmental, what does this threat mean to me as an organization? And then how do I stay up on the latest threats and the latest trends as it relates to my ability to defend? How ready is my organization? How resilient is my organization to a particular threat? That it changes over time, because the attackers are constantly coming out with new tools and new techniques and new threat profiles. And so you have to stay ahead of the curve in order to really be ready and resilient in today's world. So when you think of threat informed decisions, certainly it's a threat, but more so the environment. What's the impact to me, the organization, and what's that temporal score? And how can I stay informed of those latest threats and trends? And CISO, that's what we do. Like, that's where we live, is staying up to date on these latest threats and trends to ensure that our customer base is protected.